you're the individual that you're looking to fill, I think, had this sort of persona of being the guy that could also bridge that gap, and often became kind of, if you will, the kingmaker in a sense.
Right.
Is that a role that you still see a need for filling? Can you sort of step into that, and in doing that, you end up taking flack from, essentially from both sides of the aisle?
No, I think that's precisely what I'm talking about, although it's more specific to 3 individual areas where I think is an urgent need to act. Balancing the budget, simplifying the tax code, and reforming immigration. But I also have a very specific agenda to change Congress. And I'm not playing a middleman role. I'm playing an opponent to the status quo.
Okay. How do you balance being a Democrat in a largely Republican state? Seems to me there's an inbuilt tension there to start with. You're always going to have, it seems to me, regardless of where you are, you end up getting criticized. The World Herald and the Midlands Business Journal, and how do you deal with that? Or does it just make sense to go become a Republican instead?
No, I mean, first of all, you got to keep a sense of humor. Don't let these things get too personal. But I'm always trying to answer the question, what's the right answer? And sometimes it's a Republican answer, and sometimes it's a Democrat. That's all. I spent a fair amount of my life in business, and there are times when it comes to growing the economic pie, the Republicans tend to be right. On the other hand, when it comes time to doing things that are fair and trying to take care of everybody, the Democrats are right. And I personally think you need both. I think you need the Republican ideas that tend to grow the economy, and the Democratic ideas to make certain that we've got fairness and justice in our country.
The question that's always interested me, I guess, is where is the line between compromise and capitulation in your mind? We need this compromise, to go in and sit down with the opposition, and you try to reach some accord. At what point where is that it becomes a pure compromise, or just simply caving into?
There's no way of calculating that. You just have to go in and I will, with a strong belief that getting a balanced budget is the overreaching moral imperative, to get tax simplification, to get reform of the immigration, and that it may occur that you don't get celebrated in the short term. The most moving thing that I've ever experienced in Nebraska in my entire life was celebrating the 50th anniversary of D-Day. 6 June 1994 in Lincoln, Nebraska. And there were a number of men there who had landed on Omaha Beach. And we celebrated them as heroes. Why? Why do we celebrate them as heroes? Because they put their lives at risk. They did what they believed was right and necessary at the time. It was right and necessary at the time, but it was dangerous. And that's what you have to do. You can't worry about people getting angry in the short time. You have to just believe that it's sufficiently important, that it needs to get done, and then just do it. Alan Simpson tells this great story about going back to Cody, Wyoming after voting for the 1990 budget, something that Senator Fisher has criticized. All it did was set in motion the balancing of the budget and a huge increase in the economy itself, and lots of new jobs that were created. And the budget got, other than it worked, it was a bad idea. Anyway, he goes back. Senator Simpson said to Cody, Wyoming, and a man walked up in the street. And he said, Senator Simpson, I like you. I like your family. I've always voted for you. But after that budget vote, I wouldn't vote for you again if you were Jesus Christ. And Simpson said, I looked down at him and I said, buddy, if I was Jesus Christ, I wouldn't be representing Wyoming. Right? Well, that's what happens in those moments. You're apt, because it's likely to be that somebody's going to have to pay more and take less. If you get the job done, I think Americans are ready for it. If you don't get the job done, if all you do is ask somebody to take less or pay more and doesn't get the job done, then I think you got a problem. So this is one where whatever it takes to get the job done, you got to make certain you get it done. And then I think it's much more likely that people that are paying the price for it said, okay, we got something for it. Just like the landing on D-Day.
Yeah. Assuming the president gets reelected and you're sent back to the Senate, what are the most important things policy-wise that you think he needs to implement and that you want to help him with?
Oh, we've got to get this budget. We got to get on a sustainable path to balance. You got to get it done. And
what's that involved in your mind? I mean,
the two big ones are embracing Simpson-Bowles on Social Security and Simpson-Bowles and diminishing ripple on Medicare. We've got those two programs have to be changed because it's the liability that's hanging out there is way too big. It's the number one.
Explain for me. I'm not familiar with Simpson. We hear this term, but I'm not familiar with it. So what does that mean in practical terms to me? You've got 65 in 3 weeks. What does that mean to me?
The formula that's used to calculate your cost of living adjustment is changed, and it probably means your COLA is going to be, you're probably going to get a little bit less every single month, every single year in that calculation. It won't affect you, but somebody that's, let's say, 40 years old, instead of 68, it's going to be, maybe it's, well, actually 40 would be wrong, 20 years, because in 45 years, instead of 68, it's 69. If you're making more than I think it's $4,000 a year over the next 30 years, that floor gets raised. But what does it do? It says you'll be able to look to everybody that's alive today, either currently or in the future, to be beneficiaries. We can cover what current law says, and right now. Current law will take care of you. Current law will take care of me. Current law will not take care of this young man sitting over here in this chair. He's got a 25% cut in his benefits.
Right.
Under current law. It isn't fair. And so what Simpson-Bowles does, it makes a number of adjustments. And by the way, it makes it a better program particularly for low-wage workers and for people who live to be 85 or beyond 85 who are apt as not to outlive their savings. But what it does is it says you, me, and the kids that are under 30, under 40, we're all going to be, we all can rest easy that the promise that's on the table, we can keep the promise. Right now, we can't say that.
So essentially, what happens is then we're moving out the retirement age. Is that what you're saying? Part of it.
Well, it's actually not. It's called retirement age under law, but it's really eligibility age for normal benefits.
Okay.
Yes.
So gradually over time, instead of, in my case, 65.
Well, right now, current law is 66.
66. So in his case, it would be 69 or 70 or so.
Right. It's 69. Right now, it's 66 going to, I believe, 68. And this moves it back one more year.
Okay. All right.
But the big thing that happens that beyond the programmatic change, of the two, Social Security is much easier. Much easier than Medicare. It's not being done. In order to do it, you can sort of imagine you've got a group of Republican Democrats that say, okay, we've agreed, and you've got two good ones, by the way, Tom Coburn, Republican of Oklahoma, Dick Durbin, Democrat of Illinois. They've agreed on what I've just described. They voted for that in the Simpson-Bowles Debt Commission. So you've got, if you build the base out of Republican and Democrats who agree to do that, it's much easier than to move on to Medicare. Because they've already basically bit the bullet. Coburn to take grief from people for supporting a tax increase. Durbin taking grief for supporting some reduction in benefits down the road. Together, they've got the capacity to take on critics on both the left and the right.
So what do we do about the other part of the deficit, though? You mentioned taking it. So we fix Social Security, we fix Medicare. What else do we do to solve the deficit? Do we cut physical austerity? Do we raise tax on? I mean, how do you?
Yeah, look, I think what I would do would be the following: agree to take some additional spending reduction. And you can't leave anybody off the table. Congress is going to have to lead. I think Congress is going to have to take down more than they already have, spending on their own offices, maybe have a delay in their pay raises for a 3 or 4 year period. We have to lead by example. It's very difficult to get people to be enthusiastic if we're not leading by example. And then, you know, all the agencies are going to have to give up. Defense is going to have to be taken down. Everything's going to have to be taken down a bit. And it all begins, by the way, when I hit the defense. Because the people, that Fisher's one of them, wants to continue to spending actually at higher levels than we currently are. And my response to that is, this actually happens to be one of those situations where Grover Nordquist, the pledge that she signed, he's 100% right that America's strength is not our military. America's strength is our economics. Yeah. So when I left the Senate in 2001, we were paying off debt. And if we'd have stayed the course, we wouldn't have any debt today. And you can sort of see the dilemma that we have and why this is important. in looking at we have this treaty that we've got with Taiwan, where if China invades Taiwan, we got to go to war with China to defend it, but we have to borrow the money from the Chinese to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So, right. So you've got to believe that once you get on a sustainable path to balance and the debt starts to go down, America's going to be stronger and better as a result. You got to believe that, and I think Coburn and Durbin do, and others who have embraced Simpson-Bowles do, and you can build that out. And then you're going to have to take spending down everywhere, and if you do tax simplification right, you can generate more revenue, because we are going to need some more revenue, and you can do it without necessarily having to raise anybody's rates.
Okay. Final question for you.
Yeah.
You've been great.
Yeah.
Are you going to run in 2016?
I mean, the presidential race?
No. Well, no.
Percentage?
Well, would you like to run for president?
No, but that's the election. That's the election. 18 would be, if I win this time around, it'd be 18.
You're right. Yeah,
oh my God, I don't know. I'll be 75.
Yeah.
It was hard enough to, to give up the next 6 years. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, which how is obviously you need support from the family to do this. Is you got the support you need there to make it happen?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I do.